Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned in to the JMOR Tech Talk Show, and we'll be starting momentarily. This is the place to ask those questions about PCs, technology, challenges with your iPhone, perhaps pairing it to your car, or maybe those smart devices that are supposed to make life easier at home or in the office, but just don't seem to. And now, please help me welcome the CEO and founder of the JMOR Connection Incorporated and the star of tonight's show, Mr. John C. Morley. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the JMOR Tech Talk Show, right here on the Starcom Radio Network, broadcasting Thursday nights live 9 p.m. Eastern to 9:57 p.m. Eastern. Well, we're all about technology, and as I was putting together tonight's show, a lot was coming into my head, but the first thing I want to let you know is that if you do have an iPhone, 6, 7, or one of the new 8 or 8 Pluses like myself, be sure to update to the 11 point, and now we are at 11.03, and the build version is 15A432. That's 15, A as in Apple, 432. So it's 285.2 is the size of it, and it's the 11.3 update file for the Apple iOS. Okay, and again, this file is basically being introduced to help solve a lot of problems that had happened with some of the iPhone devices. Now, most of these had to do with the 6S and the 6 Plus. They claimed that there was issues with the touch and the screen not being responsive and freezing. There were also issues on the 6 and also the 7 where the haptic feedback, that's where you'd actually be using the button or using the screen, and you'd be getting different sensations and hearing different things, and that kind of little vibration was to give you little jolts so that you knew like whether you were scrolling. It would give you a little bit of a different sensation, nothing painful, but a different feel, because with a screen it's hard to have a feel, so you actually had a little bit of a feel to when you were scrolling a dial or making a change between something. And the other thing was that they claimed that the sounds were not playing properly. I can't attest to this because I did get my new iPhone 8 Plus not too long ago, and I'm very happy with it, I have to tell you. The other thing that the 11.03 update is supposed to take care of is to extend the battery life a little bit. The biggest issue is that people were complaining was that the new that when they got their Apple, that the battery was depleting pretty quickly. Again, I didn't really have that kind of a problem, but this was something that definitely was a concern for many people. And again, the thing you probably want to know is how big is the Apple iOS 11.3 file. That's probably what you want to know. I know that. So the 11, it's available now, and it's just about 200. Looks like it's just about 285.2 is the size of the file. So it's a nice file. It shouldn't take you too long to download that if you have a good Wi-Fi connection. And it does, unfortunately, what I have to tell you is the 11.03, as far as what's new in 11.03 iOS, well, there's not a lot new, to be very honest with you. The 11.03, like I said, does fix a lot of under-the-hood type of things, and the 11.03 file is a 278 megabyte file, is what you're going to see. And on the 7, it's a 280, and same for the 7 Plus. But, it's another large file. It does take roughly under 3 to 4 minutes to install on your iPhone once it's downloaded, because it has to go through the reboot up process. First it downloads it, then after it downloads it, it goes through that painstaking process of verifying the download, then it reboots your phone, and then it installs relatively quickly. Please do make sure that you have yourself an actual backup in iTunes before you go ahead and do anything. And then once you do that and you log back into iTunes, it is going to ask you to log back into iTunes with your Apple ID. And when you do that, it's going to ask you to validate it. It's going to basically check with one of your other Apple authenticated devices and ask you if you want to allow the login for the current location. Of course, you want to allow or say yes. And then once you've done that, you'll be able to log in. Now, don't panic, ladies and gentlemen. If you log in, it first tells you that it's not right or the session timed out. Just go ahead and do it once or twice. It may not work right away. And if it's still a problem, exit your iTunes program, then come back in again, log in, you should be fine, and then go ahead and do your backup. But you should do your backup, obviously, before you start, just in case something goes wrong. You do have your backup. So what am I going to talk about this week? I know that's probably been on a lot of your minds, saying, what's new? Because, I've been talking a lot about technology, what's new in technology, and I'm not afraid to hit any, to pull any punches or to bowl any pins down here, but I'm just going to tell you the truth. So, what's going on in technology? Well, let's talk a little bit on the light side. So, Delta actually is starting to eliminate the tedious check-in process, because you'd have to get your information to go to the airport, and then they would print your boarding pass. Well, a while ago with the Blackbirds, they had gotten rid of that. They had some issues, so they still didn't bring it into the Apple world until the Delta program now is there. And other boarding procedures for other airlines, I'm sure, will be following suit very soon. So you're going to be able to board the Delta plane. Basically, you check in all on your phone, and then when you go to the airport, they scan the little QR code, and you're able to board your flight with your actual boarding pass being on your phone. That's really nice. You don't have to worry about printing anything out. No extra hassle. Your boarding pass is right there, safe and secure, right on your phone. So they're trying to make the boarding process a little bit simpler and a little bit faster. Well, our good old friends at Equifax, we were just talking about how, in fact, I was just responding to something today on LinkedIn, and, I really try to find things that are going on. I don't want to just comment to something because it's out there. I really look for things that compel me to want to make a statement about what's going on, and something either I agree with or something I strongly disagree with. I'm not looking for these social nomenclatures where I can just say, yeah, I agree with you. That's not going to help anybody, okay? Like I told you guys before, I'm not into the Facebook thing where I'll tell you what time I'm going to the restroom or what time I'm going to the restaurant. Not important to me, just not important. So I look for things that are going to make change in my life and in other people's lives. And I can tell you that one thing that really irked me was reading about Equifax. Well, Equifax had had a page up. You're probably familiar with Adobe Flash Player. And Equifax had a Flash Player component that if you clicked on it, a lot of people believe that the system could have been compromised and handing over data. But Equifax kind of denied this, said there was no issue, and they removed these pages. This happened on Wednesday. They later removed those pages once they found out about it, and they kind of buttoned it up real quickly. I still think that there might have been some data that leaked out. Hopefully it wasn't yours or mine. And I know it wasn't mine because I have a service that monitors my data and my integrity, so I know exactly what's going on. But it's important to understand that these three credit agencies, reporting agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, and they actually make or break your credit. And I feel that these three entities, just because they have a lot of money, just because they have everyone's data, just because they have all of this priceless information about people that pretty much makes up their identity, doesn't mean that they should have different books written that they have to follow or different rules. Why is it that if one of us does something wrong, well, then suddenly it's a big problem with Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian? There's no exceptions for any of us. There's no grace. There's no understanding. There's no one time. There's just, that's the way it is. That's policy. Why does Equifax now get to just skate under the radar? I think what has to happen, ladies and gentlemen, and I said this morning in my LinkedIn post, that when, we're having these companies that have data about us, and they're really not being policed that well. What has to happen? I don't know how many of you remember what happened in Y2K, and just after that, and the whole thing about the medical institutions, hospitals, doctors' offices, same-day emergency cares or medical care centers. There was a thing that happened and stated that audits needed to happen, and that if the medical offices or hospitals, let alone, still had computers that were running Windows XP, 32-bit operating system, they would have X days to change it, a warning, and if they didn't change it, they would start getting hit for like a $15,000, $20,000, or $30,000 fine. They later thought, oh, gee, that's too harsh for these multi-million-dollar facilities. And if we catch him, well, we'll just knock him down. We'll cut that to maybe 60,000, or we'll cut it to 100,000. We won't just keep going forever and ever. I get the point, but why is it that companies like Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion get to just slide away on this magic boat to wherever because they suddenly hold all of our data? Who really cares that they hold all of our data, okay? We could replace them in a moment and get something else in place. The big problem with these companies is they think they're untouchable, and they're not untouchable. The minute money starts getting pulled from them and we start changing the way credit is reported, they're going to start kissing people's feet. And I think the problem right now is they've been such on this high pedestal, if you will, for such a while that they believe they can't be touched and that they can't do anything wrong. Well, that's completely wrong. And I had at least 6 or 7 people that within a few minutes on LinkedIn were agreeing with me that we need to go after companies like Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion and pose the same fines and the same warnings that we're posing to those medical companies. I mean, it's the same deal. If we're talking about credit card information, we're talking about personal identifier information, PIIs, or personal health information, right? Your credit card is PII, okay? And information about where you live or other things in your personal life, that's valuable, priceless information. And some of it could be used, ladies and gentlemen, to actually take your integrity and your who you actually are, which is your identity, clone it, and let somebody else become you. I feel that the only way these 3 credit agencies are really going to ever learn is if we as a government, as a country, impose laws that will fine them. I mean, we were so fast to fine the medical industry because we knew what a domino disaster could happen if credit cards or people's information were being sent over even a slightly unsecure connection. But why is it now that they have plugins or things that are not verified and suddenly, oh, we'll just take them down and it's no big deal? Well, I paid my bill late. Well, can you just delete it because, oh, I just forgot to pay it because I was busy? No, they won't do that. They'll leave that report on there for 7 years, and it'll affect my credit, and it will affect your credit if you did that. So why are we letting them get off scot-free? I think this is absolutely nonsense, and we need to get a hold of this, and something needs to be done, and we as consumers and as business owners need to be telling the government and these 3 credit agencies that something needs to be done about it. And every time they have a minor infraction, go after them and make sure that they're getting properly fined. Because if we hit them where their money is, I can guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, they're actually going to care about what the heck they do with their data and how they operate. Right now, they claim they care, but it's all a bunch of BS. It's all a bunch of politics. These 3 agencies make so much money, it's not even funny what they do, and they claim they're doing us such a public service. Well, if they're a public service, then why are they not a not-for-profit agency? Why are they a profit agency? I mean, tell me that, ladies and gentlemen. Me, please, tell me that. I mean, don't get me started. But I could go off on this for a really long time. My point of the matter is that we, as consumers and as business owners, have a moral obligation to tell these companies and our government and our elected officials that something needs to be done about this. End of point. Okay. Got up a little there on a soapbox. Sorry about that, but that's something I'm really passionate about. So a lot of this data right now, as I mentioned to you, it's being handed over to unscrupulous people. Some of the social networks, including Facebook, was actually named because of their advertising for handing over data to Russia and other foreign countries. Is Facebook and some of these other social media platforms, are they more concerned, ladies and gentlemen, about making the almighty buck? Or do they really give a crap about our integrity, about who we are as people, and what could happen? I mean, if you take the owners, the CEOs, or the top-level executives of these credit agencies or these social media companies, and we tell them that the same way we're protecting the data that's on their system, we're going to protect them. Do you think they'd want to change in the rules? I'd say absolutely they would. End of story. Hyatt also, not too long ago, actually, we heard had a breach too. They exposed customer payment data at over 41 hotels. A major company like Hyatt, okay? Now, I think Hyatt's going to probably get more than a slap in the wrist. But I tend to think Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, that they're going to get off scot-free right now unless we as people do something. Hyatt also needs to pay a price, but I got to tell you, a lot of these small companies and these larger companies, not the big boys, okay, they tend to always get not slapped on the wrist, they tend to get really punched in the stomach. And I think the companies like the credit agencies, they need to get more than a slap on the wrist. They need to get a full knockdown, a full punch in the stomach, a full hit with the fine that they should be get, just like a small company, just like myself or another company would get, whether you're 12, 15 employees, whether you're 100 employees, whether you're a million employees. It should not matter. It absolutely should not matter. And that is the most important thing that you have to understand, is that we can't start creating boundaries because a company suddenly makes millions of dollars. We can't. We have to treat all these companies with the same level of integrity. So that's more on my security watch for this week. You know, I always give you a security update. So what's happening now? Well, we talked a little about autonomous driving and stuff. Well, I got to tell you something. The taxi industry is going to go for a little bit of a... It's going to give some of the drivers a run for their money because a lot of taxi drivers, I think, are going to be going bye-bye pretty soon. Not tomorrow and not next year, but thanks or unthanks to a new technology called NVIDIA, which was unveiled by DrivePX Pegasus hardware just not too long ago. Today, that's right, October 12th, 2017, it was actually announced that DrivePX Pegasus, which is a new supervised version of Intel's neuromorphic chip. This chip is going to be available in mid-2018. That's right. That means right after March. We're looking around Q2, Q3, and it's intended to be installed in the new robot taxi cars for robot taxis. You're going to knock a lot of people out of work, aren't you? These taxi drivers, I think, are going to have to go get another job. We're going to now have taxis. We're already talking about mail trucks that are going to be running all without people. We're talking about that kind of thing. So this is where our world is going right now. But I told you a while back, we all have a moral obligation to look at the technology we're developing and decide, is this something that's going to actually help our economy and help our world, or is it just going to put a fast buck in somebody's pocket? Because if it's only for that purpose, then we're going to be paying a really high price tag as a society. And I don't just mean money, ladies and gentlemen. I mean a price tag that I can't put a number on. Something that is going to affect and directly impact the quality of your life and my life as we see it every day. Now, this new product is supposed to accelerate the growth of the NVIDIA's auto segment. And actually, and I quote, Goldman Sachs expects that the taxi ride hailing industry is going to grow to a $285 billion industry by 2030. So that means that instead, taxi drivers are going to own cars, or is that going to be run by companies? But they're going to be fairly expensive, ladies and gentlemen. And there are 25 plus companies now that are developing the NVIDIA Drive PX-based robot taxis. So the auto segment of NVIDIA is actually the smallest contributor in terms of quarterly revenue. And it only contributed, and I quote, $142 million in Q2. And the fiscal year of 18, that's what it's going to contribute. It's only going to contribute $142 million in Q2, which isn't here yet, of the fiscal year of 2018. So this segment is going to see a big growth when NVIDIA starts shipping this Drive PX Pegasus system next year. And what is PS Pegasus? Well, real simply, it is an onboard system that basically is a data center, okay, for a autonomous self-driving car technology. And it's going to read on Google's GOOG for the NASDAQ, GOOGL, a $1 billion legal suit now against Uber, allegedly receiving Waymo trade secrets. So to gauge just how important self-driving technology is going to be rating, Pegasus is reading this from the Google information and from the NASDAQ. And that $1 billion legal lawsuit against Uber, and I'm sure there's other companies out there that start with an L and some other ones I'm sure you know, about Waymo trade secrets. So what they're learning from these other companies, they're using to build this system. Somebody's going to be getting a nice piece of the pie there. That's going to be really interesting. And little tweaks from NVIDIA and the Drive Pegasus, PX Pegasus. It's going to be a self-learning system very similar to the human brain. So it's going to be able to deliver, now listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, over 320 trillion operations per second. That's a lot. And it's going to be able to computate the performance without being, did you hear it, ladies and gentlemen? Without being linked to a cloud. It's going to be all offline. It's going to be all self-contained. That is going to be amazing. So it's going to, yes, participate in a cloud-type environment to gather data, but it is not going to be tethered to a cloud as responsible for its day-to-day operations. So there's been some challenges as well with the Tesla self-driving tests. They've had some issues around there. And I know we have a little bit, so we have a few people here in the studio here that are a little bit hungry, so I do apologize. I know we're getting a little bit of noise there in the background. I apologize. I think Dawn and Carrie are having some popcorn there, and they're not giving me any. But anyway, like I said, it's just really important because, you know, when we're talking about this kind of technology, I've talked to you about it before, it's not just the fact that it's going to make or break somebody money. It's going to create a new socio-economic and a whole new set of rules and responsibilities and a new way of life. So this is the new Drive PX Pegasus system. And like I said, it was just announced today, October 12th, 2017. And Goldman Sachs expects now that it's going to grow to $285 billion by 2030. That's pretty neat. The NVIDIA is going to start shipping its Drive PX Pegasus next year. And NVIDIA is so compelled that this license plate-sized in-vehicle data center level processor, that's right, you heard me correctly, NVIDIA's license plate-sized in-vehicle data center level processor is going to be meant for level 5 or fully autonomous robot taxis. I think that's going to be absolutely amazing. But let's look at some of the revenues by market, shall we? All right. So in the gaming industry, in Q3 of 2016, it was $761 million. Okay. In Q4 of 2016, it was $810 million. In Q1 of 2017, notice it declined to $687 million. By Q2 2017, it went back up the pike to $781 million. Now listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. For Q3 2017, it went up to 1.244 million. So 1244 million. That's a big difference. And by Q4 2017, where we are right now, 1348 million. That's a huge, huge difference. And in Q1, they're estimating it's going to go down to 1027. And by Q2 2018, 1186. All right, so it looks like it's going to pay in, and it looks like it's kind of making some profit. But let's take a look at professional visualization. In Q3 of 16, it's it's 190 million. In Q4 in 2016, it's 203 million. In Q1 2017, it's 189 million. In Q2 2017, it's 214 million. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. In Q3 2017, 207 million. In Q4 2017, it's going to be 225 million. In Q1 of 18, 205 million. It's going to drop down again. And in Q2 2018, it's going to go to 235 million. You see how that kind of went up, down, then it kind of gradually excelled a little bit? Data center. Let's look at data center revenue, okay? So in Q3 of 2016, it's 82 million. In Q4 2016, it's 97 million. In Q1 2017, it's 143 million. In Q2 2017, it's 151 million. In Q3 2017, it is 240 million. In Q4 of 17, it's 296 million. In Q1, it's 409 million. And in Q2 of 2018, we're projecting 416 million. Not bad. In the auto world, okay, in Q3 2016, 79 million. In Q4 of 16, 93 million. In Q1 2017, 113 million. In Q2 2017, 119 million. In Q3 2017, 127 million. Okay. In Q4 2017, 128 million. Just one little difference. In Q1 2018, 140 million. That's a nice drop. That's a nice increase. And Q2, we finish off at a healthy 2018, 142 million. So let's look at that, but now let's also take a look at something else, which is the OEM and IP. That's where we have devices becoming anything, the Internet of Things. So we're going to go 193, 198, 173, 163, 186, 176, 156, 251. So if we look at these overall projections, the one that is actually going to make the most revenue for NVIDIA right now is projected at gaming. Now that's very strange, because you would think that the auto cars would be hitting it higher, but it's not. That's only 142 and the other's 1186. That's a huge, huge difference. Now again, these are all speculations, but I suspect that the numbers for our cars are going to go way, way higher. I mean, there's a lot of issues getting these things onto the road and things like that. So there's going to be a lot that has to be worked out, but this is definitely interesting. NVIDIA's Drive PX Pegasus, it's called the A Royal Flush for self-driving cars. Okay, so that's what's coming, ladies and gentlemen. And it looks like Brian is giving me that look that it's time for us to take a quick break. So stay right where you are, and we'll be right back after this break to talk about more technology and trends. Computers always slow at your home or office. Pop-ups always appearing. Setting up smart devices like your iPhone, thermostats, downloading apps, and much more. Mention code JRC001 and receive a PC tweak for only $49.99. New clients only, please. Visit JMOR.com now. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just tuning that dial, you're listening to the JMOR Tech Talk Show right here on the Starcom Radio Network. We broadcast live Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern to 9:57 p.m. Eastern. We talk about all technology, what's good, what's bad, my opinions, the facts, the truth. I tell you everything that you need to know to make the decisions to enforce and to use the technology that will change the quality of your life. I even let you know about technology that might impede the quality of your life so that you can take steps to try to make sure that those things don't happen or to avoid those types of technology. All right, so lots of stuff happening, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, LinkedIn, lots of these things, from our president to things happening with new types of Drive PX Pegasus, which is the biggest thing in the news, and you're going to see that getting beat like a dead horse, like you can't imagine. So there are trends, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to share them with you. There are trends that are going to drive investment in the Silicon Valley area, because that's really where the money comes from in this when we talk about technology. So one thing is ML, or machine learning. That's another name for ML, machine learning, neural networks, artificial intelligence. This PX thing I was telling you about does machine learning. So what does that mean? It means that the computer is able to make decisions and then not make those wrong decisions again based on certain input and data that it actually learns. For example, with a car, maybe it learns that when it makes a right-hand turn, it needs to understand when somebody gets close to a vehicle, and it kind of keeps analyzing. Or maybe it knows that it's learning that its stopping distance isn't as quick as it expects, so it needs to now slow the car down a lot sooner so it doesn't hit someone because the person's coming up to the perception a lot faster than we would expect. So that's one example. So machine learning is being embedded in applications like human resource applications. Did you know that the reason it's being embedded in applications is so the applications are able to tell the people that are using the particular software to not only know how to use the software, but to actually, you guessed it, figure out who's good at their job title. Now that's a little scary. You're hired as a human resource manager. Maybe you're one of 10 for a major publicly traded company. And suddenly, the controllers of the company now go into the human resources application and they run a report, and they can see that Joe, Mike, and Chris are able to get their tasks done in 28% faster time than the rest of the company. Why is that? So they can learn things about who is better for right position. So it learns, because remember, all this technology learns on one thing. It learns on patterns. That's how we as individuals operate. I won't get off on a psychological tangent here, but really, when you want to get somebody to do something, the best way to get someone to do something is to interrupt their pattern. Don't startle them. I mean, somebody says the old joke was, throw coffee at them or throw water at them. Please don't do that. But I mean, if you're going to throw water at somebody and let's say they're going on and on and on, and you take a water thing and you shove it at their face, they're going to let you do that. And you do it again. And then finally they're going to wake up and say, oh, well, I guess I shouldn't, I'm doing something. So when you interrupt somebody's pattern, you cause the brain to basically make a connection to, what's going on, why did that happen? That's why sometimes people say when you're doing something, you don't want to do it over and over again. You take a wristband and you kind of pluck it to yourself, and it gives you that little pain so you don't do it. Okay, so that's kind of where that came from. Another trend that is driving the Silicon Valley investment strategy is the cloud computing. Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. Okay? And large workload centers are being able to be pushed to the cloud. Why? Because of speed and because of agility, okay? And the other reason that they're being pushed there is because of price. So let's take a look here for a moment. When I talk to you about, agility, what do I actually mean when I say agility? Well, it's the quality or state of being agile. Okay, so to be agile means that you have a lot of dexterity. You're able to, I know I'm giving you other words, but it means that you're able to have a certain acuity or a quickness, that you're ready and able to make the decision or create the action in a physical manner, okay, in a very specific, graceful way without being haphazard, without being inconsistent, without wasting time, or without wasting resources. For example, if I was to say the football player handled the pass with great agility, which was able to easily allow him to complete the touch, which resulted in his teammate making the winning touchdown. Okay? So that's an example of what I'm actually talking about. Now, the thing that's going to kind of probably surprise you is our friends Amazon, Microsoft, Google, okay, and even Netflix Do you know what they're doing right now? They're working on something very interesting, something I talked about in the last show. All these companies, even big companies starting with a V, your carrier companies, other cell phone companies, not just your cable companies. You know what they're working on, ladies and gentlemen, right now? They're working on creating content and newer media. That's what they're doing. And anybody out there that is in the media business, such as the cable companies, they're having to reinvent themselves because these data carriers, cell phone providers, and web companies are creating content like crazy, like wildfire. And they are working on developing proprietary content and putting a lot of effort into this. It's definitely an interesting piece. That's what I need to tell you. It's a very, very interesting piece. So Microsoft and AWS, Amazon Web Services, are starting to become bedfellows together. So why is that, you're probably saying? And I know you're probably going to say, this is a G and a PG rated show, when blank freezes over, which is not a cold area, it's way below us. But something interesting is starting to transpire. Microsoft as a company and Amazon Web Services have made a declaration that they're working on a project together, and it's called Gluon. What's Gluon? And I quote from the both of them. It's an open source, deep learning project for building, deploying, and managing, you ready, ladies and gentlemen, for this? Machine learning models. Oh my gosh. AWS, Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft will compete in the cloud market. Yet, they saw that it's in their best interest to work together to build a machine learning model. So they're going to be rivals in everything else they do and try to be very competitive and go after each throat for that last host and things like that. But the one thing that both of them cannot do on their own in the best manner possible is machine learning. You can never have enough companies inputting to machine learning. There are so many factors, there are so many facets, there are so many submodalities that can make or break machine learning. And they need the resources of Amazon. We need the resource of Microsoft. And heck, there might be another company. Because this is what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. They're starting to understand that we want to get to machine learning technology. Again, artificial intelligence. The ability for machines to make decisions based on other data or other factors or other senses that are happening in real time or in data that has happened from stored processes or other data files from the past in a repository. So we'll keep an eye on that and where that's going, but I think it's interesting. Something else really remarkable, ladies and gentlemen, is Bitcoin. You remember Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, for the first time, has gone from $5,000 a trade to $5,300 a trade. Just about almost 10%. And by doing that, this is really starting to spark people. Is Bitcoin going to be the next bank? I can't really speculate on that, but what I can tell you is Bitcoin is meant to be a new way to pass currency that they claim is safer and faster than anything out there. Do I agree with this 100%? Not 100%. I think there's flaws in their logic. I think their software, I've installed it many times, I think it is too complicated for most people that will not want to put up with the patience of it. I mean, when you install a system, it asks you to write down the key phrase, okay, and then to type it back. I think that's a lot for some people. We can't even get people to remember a 10-digit phone number or a 7-digit phone number. We now want them to remember 12 or 16 words in a specific consecutive order that's in a certain case. I think we're asking a little bit too much here. But again, there's a lot that's transpiring as we start to go into 2018, a new world is going to be unveiled. I mean, I know we say that every year, but a new world is going to be unveiled. And that is going to be a world that is going to utilize the processes that we as humans have learned and allow them to be duplicated so that they can produce greater results and also be analyzed. That's a very, very interesting point. And I think companies, I'm just going to name a couple, like whether it be Wyndham Resorts, whether it be Johnson & Johnson, whether it be Hilton, whether it be Shearson Lehman, whether it be other stock companies, Merrill Lynch, MBNA, Bank of America, Harvard Review, Globex, and there's hundreds and hundreds of others. I think what all these companies are going to start to realize, but it's not going to happen all at once, they're going to start to realize that as this technology is deployed and they press this button, it goes back to that caveat that I've said to you many, many times before. You all remember the game War Games, correct? Well, War Games started with those people that were in the silos. And when they were given the order to launch those missiles, they had to basically, break a key, had to open a safe, take the key, take their glasses out, look at the code, make sure it's correct, and then they're supposed to, on their mark, which gets the missile ready to fire, but just gets the engines ready and gets them started so that they're prepared to have the engine up to speed so it can take off. And then after the mark, they have to mark at the right time, and then they have to launch together. If they don't launch within I think it's 30 seconds, if they don't do the launch when they're both told to do the launch, it never happens, and the launch is canceled. So we're at the mercy of those systems. But when we replace technology to be in place of humans, are we starting to sacrifice a quality of life because of something we want fast, or because of a decision that needs to be made because it's about money? Something that impressed me, or I say de-impressed me not too long ago, was when a company told me, and this was actually a financial company that I was working with, when we do technology work for someone, the highest priority I would think we need to have is a hospital. People's lives, I thought, were the most paramount thing of this earth. They're not replaceable. But you know what I was told by one of the top financial companies? Top because they have a lot of money. I don't think they're top because they're the smartest, but they're top because a lot of people invest in them. They told me that if you're working for us, you need to put hospitals second. I said, what? They said, you need to put hospitals second. I said, well, who was first? He says, financial institutions, banks, and the stock trades. I said, so you're telling me that if somebody is on an operating table or somebody's about to die, that you want me to help the technology that's going to pay the transaction before you're worried about if the technology is going to keep them alive? Now, maybe they didn't realize how they said that, but what it basically came down to me was that if money's not flowing, the hospital can wait. So the person that's going to die, he can wait? I didn't agree with that, and I think there's still a lot of banks out there that unfortunately operate this way. So I want to let you know that we as a society, again, have a moral responsibility, and that is to understand the technology that is being deployed and that we're choosing to use, and make sure that that technology is being used in a manner that allows us to all have the greatest quality of life. I would think someone's health is more important than being able to make a stock transaction. But they said in business, it's not about life, it's about money. that's an interesting. It's a very interesting statement. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take one more quick break, and I will be right back, so you stay right where you are.
For IT services and data destruction, the JMOR Connection should be your direction. Engineer technology to grow your business. Our custom solutions are at your service. JMOR should be your direction. The JMOR Connection.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you are just tuning in, you're catching the last few minutes of the JMOR Tech Talk Show right here on the Starcom Radio Network that broadcasts Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern to 9:57 p.m. Eastern, and that is right here on the Starcom Radio Network. So again, we've talked about a lot of interesting things, and this show will be available on YouTube later on, and you can obviously get that by going to jmor.com, clicking on social, and then the JMOR Radio, and also Starcom Radio does broadcast our show. I believe it's sometime early in the morning. They also rebroadcast our show. I want to talk about something else that I think is really important, and it's something that has opened my eyes, and I'm hoping it'll open your eyes too. You know, we all want to do the right thing, but it shouldn't be because we have to do the right thing. It should be because we want to do the right thing. You know, there's a lot of people actually out there that want to improve the quality of their life, but unfortunately they want to improve that quality of the life, and they don't care if it impedes someone. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't get ahead of other people. I'm just saying don't knock people down while you're on the way to the restroom or what have you. So there's a way of getting ahead, but I'm not saying to stab people, okay? I want to talk about something that's really important. There's people graduating, okay? And a lot of these people graduating from school hold 5 to 8 jobs, and the millennials even more now. Why is this? I'm going to share the reason. The reason that these students or college graduates do not hold a job longer than 8, the average is 6 to 11 months. It's real simple. It's because they are not doing what they are passionate about. I'll say that again. They have a job and they are not doing what they are passionate about. When my day ends at the office, I love talking about technology. I get fueled about it. I talk to some other people that do technology for a living, and they don't even want to hear about a router after 5 o'clock. They don't want to hear about a network. Oh, please don't bother me with that. Why is this? They are so burned out because they don't like technology. They're finding technology to be work because they're not passionate about it. They're doing technology, ladies and gentlemen, for one simple reason. And I got to tell you, it's the wrong reason. They're doing it because they're getting a paycheck. So, if they don't do it, they don't get a paycheck, they get fired. If you have something that you do because you love and you enjoy, it becomes a career, not work. That's why I say to people, I never work a day in my life. I enjoy my career. If you're passionate about what you do and changing and improving the quality of people's lives and honest with them, that's what it's about. When you're in a job and you're collecting a paycheck, you're just doing a task like a robot. And nobody wants to hire robots, human beings that act like robots. We want people that have dynamics, that have personality, that are friendly. That's what we want. We go to a bank. Do we want somebody that just says, check here and no. Good morning, how are you? More banks are trying to preach the caveat that, good morning, welcome to blah, blah, blah bank. A lot of times I go to the bank and I'll stand in line one place and it was like, I walked up to the window and I said, hello, sir. What do you need? And I said, what happened to the good morning? Oh, good morning. I mean, am I asking too much to get a good morning when I walk into a bank? Again, these people are holding jobs because they have to. They're getting a paycheck because that's why they're there. They're not getting a job for the reason. They're not doing what they need to or going after their passion or what they had in school. I see so many people that get a degree. Do you know what they go into? They go into business, or they go into, for example, they take psychology and then suddenly they go into something else. Or they take something engineering and then, I don't know, they go into construction. Why are they doing that? That's not what they like doing. They're doing it because it's busy work. And if you do busy work your whole life, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to do somebody's task and get a paycheck each day. So it may not give you work tomorrow, but you first got to enjoy what you do. And if you can enjoy what you do, then that's part of the piece. And if people see that you like what you do, it's going to make your life easier, and your work isn't going to seem like work. So I can't say that every job you get, you're going to love the first job you get. But if you want to make that job your career, you got to be passionate about it. You got to want to go to work. You got to want to help those people. You got to get pumped and fueled by, if you're in technology, fixing their issue. Now, people are going to be nasty to you sometimes. That happens. They have a bad day. You try to put a smile on. I always tell people it's all about respect. And you treat people the way you want to be treated. And 99% of the time, it does work. Sometimes people have a bad day, and it'll give you a little bit of a challenge. But 99% of the time, those people usually do swing around. If you're nice, the next time you're there, or by the end of your meeting, you'll find that attitude or sarcasm pretty much just falls to the wind. I want you to understand that if you have a job and you go to it every day and you just wait every week for that check, but you don't like helping the people, you don't like one bit of that job, you're in the wrong job. And it's good that you're in it as a short term, because you should quit it and get something else, because you gotta like what you do. If you don't like what you do, you're just going to be collecting paychecks your whole life. It's not fun. And you tell people I go to work and I hate it. And you're going to hate it. Become stressed out and can't do things because you hate everything you do. I mean, all these companies, these multimillion-dollar companies, are trying to make jobs fun and more creative. The problem is, you just can't teach certain dogs certain tricks. You just can't. If you're not a marketing person and they suddenly want you to do marketing and all you want to do is build houses, well, then you shouldn't be sitting at a desk job. You should be in the field building houses. But if you're, if you're a marketer and you say, oh, gee, I got some work as a builder, helping a builder, well, gee, I'll do that for a while, but you're into marketing, well, why don't you try what you're doing? A lot of times people are afraid to push that envelope just a little bit further. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I'm telling you that you have to push the envelope further. Because if you don't, no one else is going to push you, and you're never going to know if you could do what you wanted to do. You don't want to have any regrets at the end of your life. So try everything and experience life. That's my message for you. So technology is going to continue evolving as we continue to have shows. We have lots of great information coming up. I know that as we look into technology, into some of the windows, into some of the software, and some of the programs, we're going to start to see that there's going to be a common thread. And that common thread is really simple. The common thread is that all these vendors and all these companies out there are going to create a framework. And that framework is going to interface to other types of data. We're already selling data as it is now. So much of your personal information is being sold through marketing channels because you've agreed on certain sites because you click things. So realize that when you agree to certain sites, realize that you may be giving away the information that you thought was being kept confidential all because you agreed for something or you got a price. So don't sell out just because you're getting a discount, because that price you pay might be a lot more costly than just some money. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you have enjoyed this show. I know we have covered, we've covered a heck of a lot of stuff in this show. the iPhone8, the new tech updates. There's a lot happening with like I said, the manufacturers going on and having to have that social responsibility. Are you using technology to improve the quality of your life, or are you just using it because it's out there and it's just making you miserable and you're told to use it? That's not what it's for. When you get up every morning, are you happy that you have technology, or do you see technology as a chore, like, oh my gosh, I've got to go use my phone, or I've got to go use my computer? That's the difference. And everybody that you see in the world can tell if you're faking it. So I know they say fake it until you make it, but you can't put that sad face on or pretend to have that smile your whole life doing a job that you just can't stand until the minute hand hits the digit right after the 1, and you just want to book right out of there. I always say there's a job, but there's certain jobs that are what they call 9 to 5, and the minute it's like 8:58, you're punching in at 8:59. You're like right at the minute, and you're what I call a clock watcher. If that's you, then you're in a 9 to 5 job, and you don't have a career. You're not really focused on a solution. You're focused on a paycheck. And if that's the way you're living, I would encourage you to change your philosophy. Well, listen, I got to run. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you next week.
From all of us at the JMOR Connection Incorporated, we'd like to thank you for listening and invite you to join us again next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to tell your friends, colleagues, and associates about the JMOR Tech Talk Show. We're here every Thursday night on the Starcom Radio Network at 9 p.m. Eastern. If you missed any of our shows, you can just walk on over to JMOR.com, click on social, and then under JMOR Radio, just click on previously recorded episodes. We'll see you next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Have a great week.